Hey everyone, so today's project is a titanium treble clef pendant, and this is titanium wire. I got it at Rio Grande. It was 10 bucks for 10 feet. Alright, you're going to want to make sure you wear your safety glasses. You don't have to have a fancy setup to do this. I'm just using a 2-pound hammer as my anvil, and then I have this other smaller hammer that I made myself. This is actually the push rod for a diesel engine, and I welded it all together for a little jewelry hammer. But you can pick up a jewelry hammer at the craft store. And I'm just going to cut off a small section, probably about, I don't know, 6 inches. Now once we snip the wire, it's going to have this sharp point at the end. We don't want that sharp point, so we're just going to take a file, a little hobby file, and we're going to get rid of it. Okay, so I don't want the end of the wire to be completely square, so I'm also going to do a little bevel just around the edge. That looks pretty good. Okay, step 1, we're going to take our round nose pliers. And these you can pick up at any craft store. My particular pliers, years ago, I filed in a little indexing notch. Can you see right there, right by my thumbnail? And that's just a reference mark that I use when I'm trying to create the same loop over and over again. So what I'm going to do is place my wire right next to my mark, and I'm going to bend it into a circle. Well, not a complete circle, but a hook. Now here's where the magic starts to happen. This is my anvil, one flat surface, and here's my other flat surface. Now it's very important that your hammer is nice and smooth and that you don't have any marks in it, because if you do, you're just going to transpose those marks onto the project you're working on. So first thing I'm going to do is just hammer the very edge. See if I can zoom in there for you. So when I start hammering on this hook, I'm going to cant the hammer. I'm not hammering straight down. I'm going to cant it maybe 10 or 15 degrees. Because I just want to flare out this very outer edge. And if I want more of a flare, I'll just bring it towards the edge here. That way when I am hitting it, this edge right here of the hammer has a place to go. Looking good? There we go. I just gave it a few extra taps because right here I wanted to blend in the hammer marks, and so I just hammered it just a little bit on this curve so that it looks nicer when we're done. Okay, from here we're going to place our round nose pliers inside the loop that we just did, and we're going to start bending just little by little. And what we're going to do is make a loop, a big curving loop. And what you see me doing is I'm just doing a little bend, moving over, a little bend, and I'm going to keep doing these little tiny bends as I move down the line. And every time I do that, it increases the curve that I'm making. Now this curve looks pretty ugly right now, and so I'm just going to keep working on it until I have a nice curve, and this hook is facing 90 degrees that way. Now I want this part of the treble clef to be closer to the center. And so what I'm going to do is just place my pliers in there, give it a little squeeze. There we go. Now one thing you want to keep in mind is as I started this curve, it complements the curve that's already going. So I'm just taking this curve from the coil of the wire and I'm continuing it. Okay, from here I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm thinking right about there. And I'm going to take my wire on top and just pull it down. There we go. You see our treble clef starting to form? Now it still doesn't look exactly how I want it, so you're just going to play with it some more to make sure that you get what you're looking for. Alright, so that looks pretty good. The back still has a little bit of a curve to it. That's fine. If you want, you can emphasize that by bending it so it looks more like an S on the back. Now to finish the forming of the treble clef, what we're going to do is bend a section of wire here. Now you want to make sure that you leave yourself plenty of room. You can always trim it a little bit more, but I'm doing about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. So here we go. I'm going to snip this off. Now we do have this extra piece of wire. You can save it for later. The reason I kept it so long is because it helps you bend everything in place. Sort of like a handle. Okay, the same thing applies for this end. It's going to have a sharp point because we use the diagonal cutting pliers. to get rid of that, we're just going to use our file again. Alright, after that, we're going to bend our final loop. The treble clef is facing away from me, and I'm going to bend my pliers clockwise, as they are in my wrist. Again, looking for my reference mark. There we go. Okay, so this is where we're at. I want this loop to be a little bit further away, so I'm just going to adjust it up top here. There we go, that looks good. Now we're back over to our hammer / anvil and my little jewelry hammer. And what we're going to do is use the edge to start flaring out the rest of the treble clef. Okay, so I have this long section of wire on the back side of the treble clef, and that's what I'm going to use to guide where I'm going to hammer. So I'm just going to place it up against the edge and start tapping away. There we go. I'm also going to do it to this upper loop. Now as we hammer this, it starts to harden the metal, and that's why you see people heating it up red hot so that it can become pliable again, but we're not doing this. We're just going to keep hammering our cold wire. Okay, so we've done the right side, now it's time to do the left side. I'm going to place this in here, and this is where I'm going to open it up. Right, we have this funny looking thing now. I'm going to hammer the lower one. Okay, after I've done that, I'm going to close it again. And then I'm going to hammer the left side, this loop right there. Alright, there we go, looking good. It's a little bit deformed, but we're going to fix it right up with our pliers. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and fix up my treble clef. See, that looks a little too tight up top. Just open it up here. Alright, there it is. Looks a little rough. You can see some of the hammer marks in there. Especially if you look at the transition areas. And right now we're going to get rid of those transition marks with some 2000 grit sandpaper and another file. And this is how we do that. We simply place our file inside the sandpaper, fold it over, and start sanding away. Okay, so we're getting close. Now, if you have a little gap in between, in fact, I'll just make the gap so you can see. If you have a gap like this and it's not closing, all you're going to do is pinch it shut, and you're going to pinch it back and forth, and then that'll close the gap. You see, we're starting to get closer here. There we go. Now it's closed again. Okay, so if all you have is simple hand tools, then this is where you'd stop. Looks pretty good. But if you want to polish it up and you have a way to polish it, of course you could do it by hand. It would take you forever, especially with titanium. But I'm going to take it over to my buffing wheel to get an extra shine on it. So here's our treble clef pendant. We're all done at the buffing wheel. Now we just have to figure out a way to attach it to a string. So here's how we do that. Okay, to make a jump ring we need a drill bit. This particular one is 1/64, but you can pick out whichever one you want. I'm going to take our end of wire that we snipped off earlier and just bend a little handle in it. And then I'm going to grip it with my pliers, and I'm going to wrap the titanium wire around the drill bit. Now it's going to take a few wraps in order for it to get right close to each other. There we go. Let's take that off, and from this coil we're going to cut our jump ring. Cut the coil as soon as it completes a perfect circle. There we go. And then I'm going to start working in from the other side. Alright, so now we have one complete coil. And I'm going to cut it so that it overlaps just a little bit. That way when I file off the sharp edges, it'll be a complete circle. So let's see here, maybe right about there. And we have our sharp edges. We don't want those, so we're going to file those off. In order to file them off, we have to open up the jump ring. We're going to file them, and then we're going to close it right back up. After our sharp ends are filed off, we're going to slip in our treble clef, and then we're going to close up our jump ring. Now we want them to overlap a little bit. That way when we close it, see if you can see, we don't want any gap at all. And right now you can see there's a little gap. So we're just going to play with it back and forth until the gap is gone. Now I'm also going to polish this one on our buffing wheel. Okay, we're almost done. Now we just need to put it on our cord. Here's the cord I'm using. You can also get this at the craft store. Now I'm just going to take it and I'm going to guess about how long it's going to be. Make that a little bit longer. And the reason we're going to make it longer is because we're going to overlap this cord with 2 knots, and it's going to be the type of necklace that you can adjust. So let's thread our treble clef pendant through. Okay, so here's how to tie that. I'm taking my left side and I'm putting it over the right. The right side is just poking out to the left. Okay. I'm going to go around once and then twice, and then I'm going to poke it through this little hole that I made. Now it's probably really hard for you to see, so I'm going to do this again with some bigger rope. But then I just poke it through and I pull it tight. There we go. There's that little knot, looks like a letter X. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Go around once, twice, and then I'm going to go through. Again, I'll do this with a larger piece of rope so that you guys can see exactly how this works, because this is kind of difficult to see. Okay, but there we go. We have our adjustable necklace knot. If I want it shorter, I'm just going to pull these ends. And now we have a shorter necklace. Now to make it look nice, we're going to trim this right here. There it is, our treble clef necklace. So if you didn't catch that necklace knot, I have some paracord here and I fuse it at the end so you have a better idea of how it works. Now we're going to overlap the cord, and I'm going to start with the orange. And what we're going to do is wrap the orange around the black one complete time. There you go. You see how that looks? And then if I were to take my finger and stick it into this loop all the way through and have a little window there, you see that window going down the barrel of the black? And that's where I'm going to stick my orange cord, right in there, and then just pull it tight. And then this is a knot that's going to slide up and down. I'll do it one more time. Alright, so I have my cord overlapping. There's my overlapping cord. I'm going to take my orange and wrap it around the black. There's once, and then there's another time. And then I'm going to take this free end and I'm going to stick it through so that it's going right underneath both loops. There it goes. Okay, now we're going to do it with the black side. I'm going to wrap it around the orange. So there's my loop. Then I'm going to keep going. And then I'm going to take this end, the free end, and I'm going to stick it through the little hole and pull it tight. And there's your adjustable necklace knot. Hopefully that was good enough. Thanks for watching.